Okay, so my campaign promise. I have many campaign promises of things that I'm going to work to fight for the poor man. I'm the poor man's president. I'm going to fight for the rights to life for the poor man, the right to liberty and his property of the poor man, the common man. Okay? So, as the president of the United States of America, I'm going to fight to ensure the end of housing insecurity and make housing a right of every young man and young woman. Every young man that's born in America should have access to his own house, a place where he can farm and grow crops and feed himself and sustain himself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that constant battle and fight for life, you know what I mean, and enable the average everyday person to have a roof over their head and never have to live in fear of losing their house and be thrown out into the cold. Okay? Housing security for everyone. For the widow who loses her husband. You know what I mean? Uh, the widow who loses her husband should be secure in her own house and not have to live in fear of losing her house due to creditors, back taxes, sheriff sale, seizure, things of that nature. And so, um, how I'm going to do that? The Bureau of Land Management has 257 million acres of land. America don't have a shortage of land. All that land is undeveloped, untouched land. It's sitting there waiting to be developed. Why we got all these people sitting in the cities? Why not for all you homeless people, you know what I mean, who don't want to be homeless? You know, uh, back in America's day, we had these races, these land races, where you can go and rush out and grab a piece of land. The first one to secure, take their stake out of the ground or put their stake in it or whatever, however the rules went, you know, was able to claim a piece of land on which to build their house and farm and raise their stock, livestock, and survive. We got 247 million acres of undeveloped land under the control of the Bureau of Land Management. We got land to put homeless people. Okay, what we need to do is put that land to work, build communities where we take away the the constant fear of losing their ability to survive. Say, hey, there's a piece of land here, work it, grow your crops, feed yourself, um, and you won't have to, as long as you're stewarding this land, you know what I mean, and farming it and raising it and, you know, not injuring your neighbors, of course. Why shouldn't that be made available? Where every man and every woman can live without fear of losing their homes and the stability, because a mom and a father is afraid to lose their homes, because if they lose their homes, their children have no shelter from the storm. And this creates problem for any mother or father. The security that comes with a shelter over your head. No family should ever have to be afraid of being thrown out in the street. I'm talking about housing security. Make that the law. You built this house with your own hands. You should not have to you should not have to live in fear of someone coming to take it away from you. If you commit a criminal offense, you may lose it, But even if you got out of jail, you know what I mean, the house is still yours. No one has touched it, no one has harmed it. And your kids, this is hypothetical, of course. You know what I mean? But why not? People are not dreaming anymore. America could be so much of a better place to be for those who are dreaming of making it a better place where we end all oppression. They just ripped down a homeless people's commune because that's what these encampments are. They're a commune. People living together. You know what I mean? Sharing food together. You know what I mean? These are communes. They're ghetto communes. You know what I mean? They ain't out in the country, rural areas, but these are ghetto communes. People working together in a community, living and surviving and trying to survive. But I have the solution to end all those inner city encampments. We'll build cities. We'll build communities of all those homeless people. If you want to work this piece of land, cultivate food on it, you know what I mean? Live at peace with your neighbor. Don't bring destruction and chaos and oppression into the community. Then uh, love your neighbor as yourself. You do that, you know what I mean? And you have the housing security. Have a roof over your head, work that field, produce food, whatever you need to eat and survive, And so why can't we do that? We have all that land, public land. 247 million acres of public land that we could be using right now to build. We could build a brand new city and end homelessness. All the homeless people, bring them to the selected portions of land and say, "Hey, live on this land, work it, cultivate it, don't destroy it." You know what I mean? Live in symbiosis as much as possible with the land, but put it to work. Not that land is not even being touched and used, save by the wild animals. The wild animals are the only ones that are touching and using that land. You got all this 247 million acres where wildlife is just roaming free, dominating all that land. We could be putting that land to work to build America. That's how you do it. You know, give as the poor man's president. I'm gonna make education in the uplifting of every. No American should not have access to college academic level information. College free for everyone. Have centralized databases where you can stream a lecture from Professor so and so and whoever professor is at Harvard. Take another class at Yale. Take another class at a dance studio. Take another. You should have the ability to take a class, whatever class you choose, from this university, that university, and compile together and say, okay, you met the criteria for this degree. You know what I mean? And we need to look at what the criteria for degrees are. We need to look at the criteria of many different things and stop just accepting that this is the life in America that um, is going to be, and say, you know what, we're going to build a better America, a freer America, free of oppression, full of love, and opportunity. Let's give opportunity for the poor man to live at peace with his neighbor, to have a place of land where he can rest his head and build his house, build his family, raise, food in which to feed his family, and ensure that people don't have to live in fear of those things being taken away. We got a lot of land we could be putting to work right now. All those bodies, able-bodied people that you want to complain about being in a homeless shelter, we got land, public land. So you know what? If you want to build a city in which to, uh, you know, care for yourself, shelter yourself, um, raise a family, raise livestock. We have all that land just sitting there, not doing anything, but letting the wild beasts of the field just prowl upon it. The animals got dominion over 247 million acres of land. There's my solution as the president of the poor man. We're going to use that public land so that you can build a home for yourself. Build your own home, right? If you want shelter from the storm, build your own home. We'll apportion you a plot of land. You know what I mean? We got to see how many people, uh, you know, how many acres, and just begin. Build a city, build a community, build a commune for people to dwell together in unity. You know, that is my platform as the poor man's president. I am going to fight for the poor man and see that justice and righteousness is treating your brother right, regardless of how much money is in his bank account. Now, the issue with our dating scene in America is a lot of women don't want to have your babies and be homeless. And so they're looking for money because they're afraid of, if I love this man and we have children together and he doesn't make enough money, then the bank's going to foreclose on our house. Sheriff's going to take our property. A man now doesn't have the fear of his children, his wife ever being homeless, because now you have the right to shelter. I'll call it the shelter. Those names for the bills, right? They pass bills with all these names. The right to shelter from the storm. If you build a house and you work the earth, the land, to grow your own food, you're being productive with your time and energy, and maybe some of the excess food you sell it on the market. You know what I mean? Um, you give some away to neighbors so that you have a co-op. Where you growing carrots. All right, you grow a head of cattle. We'll butcher the cattle. You know what I mean? You know, there's all types of things you can do to end the hunger issue. When more people are producing crops, you have more food available. We have a large percentage of people that are not producing food. If you homeless and don't have shelter or storm, we say, hey, here's a piece of land. You farm this land. You build a house with your own hands. You know what I mean? Work it. You take someone who's idle and you make them a builder. You make him active in producing and raising up society. You know what I mean? But communities like this have to be thought out, have to be planned, have to be community has to be involved to strategize and think. You know what I mean? And so you're talking about planning civilization where people don't have to live in fear of losing their homes, can dwell together with in peace and safety with peacemakers and peacekeepers and people that love their neighbors as themselves. You know what I mean? And so, as the next president of the United States of America. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you right now what I'm going to fight for. I'm going to fight from the poor, the weak, the oppressed, the orphan, the widow. We're going to give them places, we can have orphanages, uh, well, education, equal access to education. There shouldn't be a, well, you got accepted to Harvard, you got accepted to Yale. Every Tina from the inner city of Memphis or Tulsa or Chicago or any other city here in the United States of America should be able to log in virtually to any lecture at Harvard and register to take the class. You know what I mean? Oh, excuse me. That's what I think. Equal access to education. You know, that same student should then be able to take another class at another university. You know, you like a professor at this university, register, take his class, it, get accepted, all free of charge, no cost for, you know, the state can pay for these teachers. The government, the neighborhood, the community good can be served to where we all have equal access to advanced education. Equal access would raise the poor man out of the pits to where he's currently at, make him, you know, new ideas, make you see new thoughts, new reasoning, you know what I mean, new ability to see the world in different ways. Education can open your eyes in a lot of ways. God can open your eyes, you know what I mean, so that you can see. And so what we need to be doing as a people, as a civilization, is not building bigger prisons of oppression, not teaching our neighbors, our schoolmates on how to murder and kill and join the military and kill people. You're teaching men and women on how to murder their brothers. It may not be uh, your brother here in America, but it's your brother in another country, the brother of mankind, you know. Um, and so, police, right? We're taking Tom, Pete, Steve, Bill, Derek, whoever you want to call their name, and you're teaching him how to attack and oppress his neighbors. Think about that. What kind of civilization are you building if you're training one man to beat down the other man? That's what we're doing. Is that the civilization we want to move towards? A civilization of continued oppression. We're building bigger prisons, bigger institutions of oppression. Is that the direction that the United States of America should be moving in? Well, if you're the beneficiaries of that oppression, then you're going to be like, yeah, I'm making millions of dollars off of these private prisons. You know what I mean? I'm making millions of dollars off of oppression of certain great groups and races of people, and they don't care. They don't care until the oppressed, or the oppressor becomes the oppressed. Then they start caring, right? When the one who once was oppressing the poor and the weak becomes the oppressed and is crying out saying, hey, you're hurting me, stop beating me down in the street, you're tasing me, you're shooting me, you're hurting me, you're locking me up, I didn't do anything, until you become the oppressed. Then you understand what it feels. We should not be teaching the kids, the children in high school, on how to oppress as a part of their job, their occupation. Somebody pays you money to hunt people down in the street, to beat them down, to stalk them, to interrogate them, to tase them, to shoot them, to murder them in the street. These are occupations of oppression. Should we be building that type of society where we're teaching one man to oppress the next man? You know, law enforcement has to change. These are systems of institutions of oppression, and the state is the oppressor. The state is the one that's coming to take your money away from you, your house away from you, your property, your children, your clothes, everything that you value, your life. The state is the one who is the biggest threat to that. You pay for your own oppression. They take your money from you every paycheck. Why? Because they use that money to buy the right people to send them out to oppress you so they can keep taking more of your money. You pay for your own oppression here in America. The state and all their rules, all their laws, all their statutes, all their codes that they fine you for and bleed you dry of all your resources, impoverish you through citations. City says you're driving too fast. Cite, rob you your money. Oh, you can't pay? Oh, you can't afford insurance, we're going to take your car away. Sheriff sale, robbery. Rob you of your property, rob you of your money. Why? To feed the state. And the state gets bigger and stronger, you get poorer and weaker. The state is dominating the rights of the people. Our right to life, liberty, and property is not being safeguarded by the state. We are being deprived of our right to life, liberty, and property by the state and its agents, its actors. You know what I mean? So we have to change that. All oppression. We should not be teaching and training any brother on how to murder, how to beat down, how to attack, how to shoot. We shouldn't be teaching each other on how to oppress each other. Free from oppression. That should be the United States of America. Freedom to live and to have a family and to build a future and to educate your children. You know what I mean? Can you imagine the United States of America if every child had access to the top universities in America and other universities that weren't the top? You know what I mean? Small universities that specialize in dancing and piano and orchestration, or this professor here, you know what I mean, that's experimenting, in you know cutting edge education and research in certain fields, physics, and you know why shouldn't every American have access to every class virtually and learn? Sit at home at your desk if you want to be at home, you know what I mean, and put a lecture on at a top-notch university. You should have that right. Equal access to education and knowledge, you know, education, academic, university studies, for everyone. Equal access for that. You don't need to have meet certain requirements in order to be eligible to enroll. You know, within certain parameters, of course, on how you would administer that, but equal access to any lecture from any university on American soil. Why not? All all from a computer, right? Public library. We can have we can have you have virtual schools already, right? Kids are learning from computers and laptops and things like that. The next step is okay, virtual school graduation. Now let's work on these college credits. Get you a degree, some specialized education and training. You want to take a class, and there are certain classes you might have to do in real life, but some classes you may not be able to take virtually, but why not make it available to everyone here in America? We want to give certain opportunities to certain groups of people and then deny the same opportunities to other classes of people. That has to end. That has to end. And that's what I'm going to do for the poor man. Give every poor woman, every poor man, every poor child equal access to higher learning and higher skill sets. You get as much education you want. You want to have 10 PhDs, you know what I mean? You should be able to get it if you want it. If you're willing to do the work to advance your mind and academically, then why not have that ability to do so? And if you want to have a family, you should have the ability to keep that family secure at night under a roof that you don't have to be afraid of losing. Housing security for every man, every woman. Build healthier, stronger families. The basic building block of any civilization is the family unit. Strong families build strong cities, strong communities, the strong foundations for any person. Strong families. We have to stop tearing families apart unnecessarily. Because that's what I see happening. We're tearing families apart. Children are left. I was in jail, and mother was thrown in jail, father was thrown in jail, two children thrown in child protective service. That whole family, mother, father, child, ripped apart, being destroyed by a system. We have to build stronger families, stronger communities, and all those aircraft carriers that we have, all that steel, bring those things back into dock, right? Break out the blowtorch, start ripping all that steel out of there, melt it down, use that steel to build all the steel you need, from those aircraft carriers and tanks of old. You know what I mean? Put that stuff, melt that down. We'll give steel so you can build a new city. We're talking about building and development. Okay? That's what we're talking about. Why in the world would we not be looking to build America? Taking an idle population that's idle and not being productive with their time. Okay, now we'll take that idleness and turn it into productivity. We'll build cities and communities and communes where people work together for the common good, for each other, and take away this striving, this something on my lip. Take all this fear and striving of not having food and shelter and the ability to sustain themselves. If you want to work for it, let's have the opportunity presented. We got 247 million acres of land. 247 million acres of land, and all these people needing housing. It doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure out how to solve that problem. Land, people, present them with the opportunity to build something, a future for themselves. That's what I say. I am the poor man's president. I'm going to fight for the poor man.